Welcome, Night Owls, to the Book Club After Dark podcast, an inviting moonlit podcast. I'm your host, Danny.
And I'm Michelle. We break down fantasy, romantasy, and thriller novels.
All things enchanting, intriguing, suspenseful, and maybe a little spicy.
Each episode contains intimate discussions on captivating stories, character breakdowns, fan theories, and more. And this is your content warning. This podcast contains mature themes and discussions that may not be suitable for all audiences. Episodes include explicit language and depictions of mature romance, as well as depictions of violence and other intense subject matter. This podcast is rated R for mature audiences only. Listener discretion is advised.
And going forward from here, there will be lots of spoilers in this coverage of Quicksilver. Consider this your spoiler warning.
So let's get cozy because the best stories are told after dark.
For tonight's drink of the episode, I'm calling the Zilveran whiskey. I couldn't get on board with just giving you guys a drink that was a straight whiskey, even though that's literally what Saeris drinks. I wanted to give something that had a couple other elements to it. This has orange, pomegranate juice, a little bit of honey. I'm going to do a video kind of making it all and making it a prettier version of it so you can see that. But it's essentially understanding that in the very beginning of this, we know that Saeris has almost no water, and a lot of the folks in this world drink heavily. And Saeris can definitely throw down with her whiskey. I thought it would be perfect to have a strong whiskey forward drink as our first real drink of the episode as we get into kind of her world at the start of her chapter.
Right, but drinking whiskey, dehydrated and starving, and still being able to kick ass she's such a complete badass.
Yeah, it's wild. Yes, indeed, for sure. We're going to immerse ourselves into Yavalia, but also into Zilveran, which is part of where the human district area, which we kind of talked about in our first overview chapter. You don't really see that in the map because most of the book takes place in Kingfisher's world. We're going to initially start in Ajun City because we're going to start with the Kingfisher point of view bonus chapters, which these are available on Callie Hart's website, and they're free. Originally, when they were first released, I believe you had to sign up for her newsletter or something additional to be able to read these, but that's no longer the case. You can just go to her website and there's a tab that literally says Kingfisher point of view POV chapters. And if you haven't read these, highly recommend. We're going to go through them in detail right now. But the first two parts of those chapters take place to the start of what we know of the Book of Quicksilver. So the first two sections are parts, basically. They're fairly long, but I was here for it because usually with the point of view chapter, it's not adding a whole lot to the book. Like, for example, with our Zayden point of view chapters, we already knew what was going to happen. It was just perspective. It was just his perspective of the same event. This is not that. These point of view chapters.
No, you get a whole new area. You get a whole new area. You understand like the background of why he has the name Kingfisher of the Ajun Gate, which is referenced in the book, but you don't really understand why. You know, like something happens, but here we actually get his point of view in an event that happens way in the past. So I did love that. It's not just, hey, here's a scene with his point of view, which the third chapter does have a little bit of that, which we'll cover when we get to that. But the first two chapters are completely new. And I love when authors just kind of give us this instead of having to re-release a new book for the POV chapters, and you have to rebuy a special edition, which we like new fancy editions. But I love that she just like, here, I've heard that everyone wants the POV chapter, so I'm gonna gift it all to you. So thank you, Callie, for that.
Exactly. So whether you're reading along with us or just here for the book talk, as always, we are glad you're here. And so we're going to start off with the Kingfisher point of view before. And we know this takes place in the storyline that Kingfisher has just come back from being gone for a little over 100 years when he sees Saeris, and the whole situation happens, which will break that fully down. But right now, this is way before that. There's the Gate Part 1 and 2, and these are both before the start of the book Quicksilver, where we start with Saeris' point of view. So these take place telling the story of Kingfisher and Ajun City and really break down what happened here.
We start off with a very peaceful scene. It's nighttime. Kingfisher has his wolves, which are essentially Renfis, and Renfis has a twin sister named Morel, Danya, Corix, Foley, Vashkidanya, and Lorth. And Lorth is supposed to be the new member of Lupo Perelia. And this is essentially where we see the wolf insignia on his chest and on different pieces of jewelry that he has, and it's because of Lupo Borrelia, which is like his wolf pack, essentially, is what he calls them. And Ajun City is a peaceful area, but it's guarded by a 100-foot tall gate that's magically warded by the city. It's to protect the Ajun Fae from any sort of creatures that are in the area. However, it is open due to a festival. This is why we have our crew who is posted outside the gate, and it's supposed to be a beautiful, peaceful night, but there's tension immediately because it's like the tension before battle, you know?
And it's
And
written
then you're just thrown right into
well. Yeah, you're thrown right
Mhm.
in, and it's written really well. I really enjoyed these chapters. Like I said, it didn't feel like your typical POV. It honestly felt like a real true bonus to the book. And I wish it had been included. I do wonder if it got cut in editing, like in post. Maybe she wrote this already and it got cut after the fact. Like whenever the book was going to release, they just took these two parts out and decided to release them later. But I kind of wish that they started the book with these, actually. I don't know.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, you get into a fantasy book, you don't know everything. You don't know
That's
the
fair.
background, the lore, and you're kind of plopped in from usually with these books with high fae, you're plopped in from the human perspective. So it makes sense that we wouldn't get this until later. I liked reading it and not having that information, and then later rereading
true.
these chapters and making the connections. Like,
Mhm.
oh, that makes sense. Like, you know, like all the light bulbs go off. You're like,
Mhm.
oh, okay. Like the first beast that we see is the Drake, the
Right.
supposedly the last dragon, which is he references as Silent Death, they called him here, but the beast had many names: the Drake, Old Blood, Grandfather Ash, Cry. Essentially, this is a dragon. But this isn't like Onyx Storm, Fourth Winged Dragon.
No.
These are I pictured the stereotypical medieval type dragon that guards their hordes and is very grumpy, not like lovable Taryn grumpy, but like actual grumpy. I
Grumpy
will
like I
fuck you
eat
up if you touch my
humans.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, which he does. This dragon talks. Like it's not a mind talking, it's like actual like hissing sound. He even says like he came out to feed. So he's definitely ready to eat some fae, and you know, he's also bitter.
Yeah. The gates have kept him out with this pact that they've had from the mountainside. He's been not allowed, and he like lives in this mountainside. Ren and Kingfisher have lighthearted banter about going back and forth about the safety of the city, or leaving Ajun entirely. The group knows that there's a horde of vampires, which are called feeders in this book, also coming up the mountainside. So there's this feeling that it's going to go to shit pretty quickly. And so how are we going to take care of this? So Kingfisher sends this ominous silence. He senses it, and this wind dies down, and there's this moment where he's talking to everyone, and he's like, they're like, what's the deal with you? And he's like, I can't hear anything. Nothing. And so we also know that through Sarah and through Kingfisher, when we're reading this after we've read the book, that the Quicksilver can talk. I agree with you, Michelle, that it would have been really weird to not have all the backstory we already had of reading the whole book and then having this Quicksilver start talking, because you'd be like, the hell is going on?
Does he
you'd
have voices in his head? Yeah.
You'd be so confused. It would be very weird. The Quicksilver tells him to run. He screams to everyone, let's go, we're running. Dragon fire from the Drake lights up the mountainside, or the Onamshakrai, which is really like the better word for him, because he's referred to this in Quicksilver, and there's also a section with all the pronunciations in the beginning of the book. Onamshakrai is one of the key ones. The dragon fire lights up the sky. The number of times the word brimstone is used in these chapters, these two sections beforehand, is a lot. So the Drake spews molten lava, aka brimstone, which comes out of his mouth. So it's not just fire. Like, it isn't just fire like the dragon. It's like has a physical like feeling to it, like a lava. The Quicksilver is saying everybody needs to move together, use the men as a shield. Fisher is actively using his shadows here. He's dodging the lava, like literally picking himself up off the ground with his shadows. This type of power that he has, and getting everyone to try to reach the gate they need to go secure with making sure that all these people that are safely housed back in the area where nobody can go, the feeders or the dragon.
But with the gate wide open, it makes it difficult because it can only be shut by fire sprites specifically. They're protecting this gate is just to buy time until the fire sprites are notified and they can get there. And the Fae, who are securely in the city, all start to flee the city as well. And I'm just like, when I read that, I was like, why? Why are you leaving the city? Like, I see there's a dragon, but this is supposed to be the safest place. So where you're just kind of out in the open at that point in time. They have civilians out, and then they have the gate. It's really chaotic. And but the way Callie Hart writes this, even though in the chaos isn't confusing. You know where people are, and I think it's because it's from Kingfisher's point of view, and he is very acute to his senses, and he is very well-versed in war. So he understands everything strategically. It's not chaotic from his point of view. But you understand there's chaos. There's a massive horde of feeders, which he comments as not even a fifth of what Malcolm, who is the head vampire, which we'll see later on in this novel, it's not that many, but it's enough to overrun the city. And the pact clearly is broken because the Drake, he's supposed to not just like stay away from the gate, he's actually supposed to be a protector of the gate. But now that he's teamed up with this horde of vampires, that obviously that's
all bets are off.
He's bitter, right? Because he's the last dragon. His kind has been slaughtered by the Fae. We think is the last dragon. It's assumed that he's the last dragon. We don't know that. No form of bartering can feed his hunger is essentially what he wants to do. Then there's the group. They go towards the gate. Most of them make it through as like fires blasting down on them and molten lava. And then Fisher uses like his shadow power, and he realizes it slides off his scales, but his whole intention is to hide the people. We see this big ass dragon, and then there's shadows everywhere surrounding its feet and all around to protect the Fae that just like scattered around. And the shadows stake him to the ground. And this is where we start seeing like the dragon talk. He's saying, "Cursed born, release me." Pissed. There's the reference to him being cursed. Right. He's pissed, but he's cursed born. And we already know he has a sketchy past. But being cursed, you know, that adds a little bit more depth, especially since the dragon knows who he is.
The shadows give everybody time, and the dragon taunts Fisher, and he's saying the gates, you know, cannot be closed by the likes of you. And he's pissed, and he's like, I just want to eat. Like, I'm going to eat all these people, because what's going to happen is I don't care that they want to, you know, turn all of them, meaning the feeders. I don't care about any of that. I'll just eat what's left. That's fine with me. And he's very dark. So the gates are made of iron, and it's forged to keep abominations out of the realm. And also, like, Fae cannot touch iron either. You cannot touch it with your hands. So it can kill them, basically. Being near it, he even describes it as Renfist like got hit with an arrow that it just like slightly grazed him. And Renfist was like down for the count for like 2 weeks and almost died. And he didn't even actually touch it. Kingfisher talks about how he got himself used to iron over a period of time. And he just decides, okay, I'll figure out what I'm going to do here. Backstory on why the gates are even open. The gates are open for 5 days and 5 nights to celebrate this symbolic festival that's going on. The Halelin. Sorry if I messed that one up. Did I say that word correctly? Okay.
This is in the audiobook, so...
Yeah, a symbolic gesture to welcome good fortune and allow trapped spirits to escape, which it's not an audiobook that I know of. This, I've only read it where we are at. So this is why Malcolm knows about it, because it's planned. Because if you're wondering, you're reading it and you're like, how does this horde just show up, or how do they know about it? They know this is a thing that happens to this. It's a celebratory thing. So the fire spirits are charged with opening and closing the gates, but they're just not. There's no way they're going to make it in time in this situation. The Fae had originally given the dragon these treasures. They're supposed to protect this city, and the dragon just like, yeah, I'm just not. Like, I'm okay with what the feeders are about to do, and I'm pissed because, again, I'm the only one left. The only option here now is Fisher saving Ajun is for him to close the gate himself. He takes it upon himself to do this, and all the wolves are like, the fuck are you about to do? This is a suicide mission. Like, what are you doing? Because, like I just said, Renfist basically got slightly a little bit of iron on him, and he was down for the count. Renfist is fucking huge. He's just like this wall of a man.
Mhm.
So Kingfisher grabbing this gate is like a complete death. They all think he's insane. So there's agony of this iron. Fisher needs to close the gate, pushes it closed slowly, and he's falling into the snow. He's crashing down, pushing it, and he's moving it. And Renfist is like yelling at him, like, the fuck up. I guess we're all just going to die. Like, what are you doing? Well, I guess we're all just going to die then. You know, who's going to tell anyone what happened? They're just going to forget that this all happened. Like, what was it all for? Like, fucking with him. And of course, this pisses Kingfisher off more. We know this about Kingfisher in the whole book, is that he's definitely broody and grumpy and does not like people to call him on things. And so Renfist, being his bestie, knows just the right things to say to get him more motivated to keep pushing through, which is exactly what he does. It's preventing the vampires from coming down. He's using his shadows as well to hold this dragon in place. And then he's physically with his body, the fucking gate. Like the amount of power that Kingfisher has to be able to do this is unmatched.
It's important to know that the Quicksilver is also talking to him through this. And since the Fae can't touch the iron, but Quicksilver is a different element, and the magical laws that bound the Fae are very different for the Quicksilver. And the Quicksilver actually assists in a way that when he's pushing the gate, the agony is gone. Literally, what's making it difficult for him is the energy, like the lack of energy that he has, because he's doing all the shit that you just described that he's doing at the same time as he's trying to I mean, the gate is it's not like, you know, a 4-foot fence. It's 100 feet tall. Like this is a big gate that he's pushing together with just his hands, because he's the only one with Quicksilver, so no one else can touch the gate. And they all essentially help in the end.
Please let the Netflix series start with this. Please.
Like a prologue type question.
Yes.
Or type
I
chapter,
don't know how you want to do it, but like this, the gate parts 1 and 2 are visually like epic. They're just the best. They were so good to read. And I was like, I cannot wait to see this like on the big screen. It's going to look so good to see this come out. It just, sorry. I just get super excited. I'm just so excited that this is going to be just like with Forcebank. I'm just like so excited that Quicksilver is going to be coming out on Netflix. Like, I can't wait.
Oh yeah. Fisher ultimately, with the help of his friends, because his friends are pushing on his back to finally get the gate shut. And then he collapses, the shadows collapse. Basically, he's losing all this power. But just because the gate is shut doesn't mean this whole encounter is over, because there are still people outside. So they have to protect and gather from the outside now, basically until dawn, so the vampires can go like burn, because they're still vampires. They can't be out in the sunlight. That element to them are still true, but they're not your Twilight vampires at all. The four of the wolf pack, they are plotting essentially to fight the vampires. Fisher is bleeding silver, and the sky explodes with daylight. In this point, we're gone. Once he closes the gate, he wakes up, and he is now in a different realm, which is a realm that we see in the original chapters, but we see them from Saeris' perspective. I thought it was really interesting in this perspective. So he is with the two goddesses, Mithrin and Baal. Initially, we register them as the two sons that are present in Zilveran, but their names have changed a little bit because of humans. Yes, they rose from the grass, and essentially Mithrin and Baal, they're not supposed to tamper with humans, with Fae, with their realm, but they find Fisher interesting. So they brought him to their world, and the way they interact with him is kind of, I don't know, I thought their interactions were like fangirly in a way, because that's all they do. They just watch him from, you know, their area. They don't have like social media, so they're just like checking in on Fisher and what he's doing. Yeah. And like Mithrin like tastes his blood, and she's like, I want to taste, but then she says he tastes of hope.
You know,
stop licking me. Like, why? But he tastes of hope, fear, unmet potential, and love. And he kind of like balks at love. He's like, what do you mean love? I've never experienced love. I don't feel love. But it's important that they're in the realm that they are, time is different. They get transported to this realm, and literally this is the same time that Saeris is also in the realm, and he even sees that there's someone over there in the distance, and the twins say that she's not ready for you. This time works weird here. So he's in the past, haven't met Saeris, but future Saeris, who knows Kingfisher, is in the same realm at the same time with him. So it's kind of like trippy. It's definitely trippy. But there's also this huge tree.
Right. And it reminds you, though, that you're not in the same time either. And you know where you are because you've already read the book. So, as soon as this happens, you're like, oh, at least I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's her. Yeah. And she even comments about like a smell that she knows, and it's Fisher's smell, but it's a different time. And so I liked how that was interlinked. I thought that was very well done, poetic, well written.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. And then we have Zareth, which is another god that we're introduced to. Gods are actually, I'd say they play a pretty big role in this book. Just as they're referenced as like a religion in a way, but then we also get the embodiment of them and like what they represent. So Zareth he's the god of the fates essentially here, and he has this tree, and there's leaves falling, and then he just decides to like fuck with certain ones. And in a couple of chapters in like the actual like book, not the POV chapters from Kingfisher, even says like they do not want his attention because he just kind of twists fates in the future based on his own whim, and he's preoccupied right now. So Fisher's like, okay, get me the fuck out of here. The twins essentially give him what he needs to be successful, which is a god sword. It's a glittering black sword. It's an ancient blade, and heal him up.
How's he gonna get out of this now?
Walk away.
Because without this god sword, how is he going to get out? Like, he dead basically, unless they send him back. Like, he just collapsed. He's bleeding Quicksilver onto the ground. He just expelled everything he has. I'm sorry, but that's not going to stop a dragon and this massive horde of feeders. We're going to need more than that. And that's where we go back into the gate, Part 2, which starts off with Kingfisher waking up. He wakes up and he has his friends with him and these Orinthian knights that are going to defend the Ajun against the horde and the Drake. See, Ajun Fae, who are outside of the gate, are just civilians, basically. They have no training. Some of them are kids. Like, it's not good. They didn't all make it to the gate. And like, to your point earlier, some of them panicked and kind of like didn't know where to go. And it's a festival and whatever. Some of them are outside of this gate and they have no training at all. Ren's trying to get everybody to retreat. The feeders do not fall. They keep on coming in desperation. Imagine them as like zombie vampires. That's how they are
definitely underworld.
To me.
That's what I picture the entire time.
They're sentient only to a point, and not really like the full person anymore by any means. So these are not your Twilight vampires, no. Which is why they kind of go by feeders, because that is a much better term for what they actually are. Fisher's using his shadows again, and now he's using his god sword to kill as many feeders as possible. He's charging towards his goal, which is the dragon. And remember, we talked about Renfis's twin sister, which I didn't know he had a twin sister beforehand. Whenever you're first starting reading the book, you don't know that he has any siblings. You're reading, when you find this out, it's pretty heartbreaking. This dragon wanted revenge, and Renfis's twin sister runs out into where the dragon is coming flying by to grab this child. And Renfis is screaming, like, not to go out there. She gets the kid and the dragon flies over. And this was like very Game of Thrones for me, because I just imagined the Game of Thrones dragons, because they're not nice either. And they killed a shit ton of people. And the flames just like get her. Like, there's just no... The whole time I'm reading it, I'm just like, maybe that didn't actually happen. Maybe we're going to unhappen that.
Right. Nope. But then, like, we don't see her in the book at all besides these POV chapters. So, like, this is where she dies. And it's really sad. And honestly, what was most heartbreaking was Rem's reaction. So essentially, because, he's pissed, he's sad. They have a deep, deep bond. And he just starts drawing power into himself. And he gets to a point where he doesn't want to release the power after him and Fisher end up teaming up on the dragon, but he keeps drawing this power and essentially to kill himself. That's what he wanted. Like, that was at the state that he was at, And I'm like, no, Renfis. Like, I'm like, no, there's so much more for you.
Doesn't,
obviously, we know
but
that
still.
yeah, but like as you're reading it, you feel so much for him. And so for Fisher created a shadow gate with his power, and we don't see him doing a whole lot of this in the original chapters because this takes so much power. It takes a lot of crafting for him to do. It's not easy to create a gate that he can just walk into, but he does create this shadow gate. And Fisher orders Ren to unleash his power so he can meet his sister when the fates decide, because now is not his time. And then unleash the power, pierce the dragon, but the dragon's not down for the count yet. Lorith, which is one of the wolf pack, takes Ren's body through the gate, and Fisher essentially charges on everywhere. He says Morel's figure is taunting him. So he's like seeing her face and all of these people. Essentially, the Quicksilver is taunting him through this. And that's what the Quicksilver, while can be helpful, very much would rather see him tortured. And the Quicksilver does so mentally. And that's why we get this brooding Shadow Daddy, because he is literally has like a disease in his body that is tormenting him. The dragon takes off. Fisher tried to stop him using his shadows, but his power is definitely depleted even after getting kind of a refresh in the gods world. He's about to run on low, and the five spirits also arrive, and they can finally like completely close and lock the gate, and they wait until they can slip through and they're completely protected. But the dragon continues to come down and blast everyone on the mountainside. And dragons aren't infinite power, like they're not infinite fire. They have like a fire chamber that when they release their fire or their lava, in this sense, you can see it light up. Based on that, one of the members hypothesizes there's probably only 3 passes left. So they come up with this plan on how to trick and trap Omnam Shakrai and finally kill him, which is they hypothesize he's going to land on this ledge so he can get like, a really good sweep down. And they ultimately do that, and they jump the dragon. And it's this really gross scene where they're all like grabbing or like jumping onto the dragon, and they can't pierce dragon hide with like their normal swords. So Fisher literally gets to the point where he's like, oh, well, I can stab its eye. No, he gets chomped up. And this dragon's huge because it doesn't like chomp him in half. He like chomps him whole. And Fisher has to like stab up into the soft parts of, his head. And then he has to sit there for hours as the disgusting smell of brimstone is around him. And it's dark and the dragon's dead. And it's just disgusting. But the dragon dies, and it just takes forever for them to open it.
Oh my God, it's going to be so good visually.
Yeah,
like, that's crazy.
Right. The ending of these point of view chapters where it was all action packed. I loved them. It showed the challenges that he faced, and it shows why he is called Kingfisher of the Ajun Gate. So this is specifically exactly where he gets his title.
Yeah. And this is where he gets all the people that, Saeris is like, why do all these people know who you are? And, you hear about these great battles and stuff like that. But this is where you get to truly be in Kingfisher's point of view in one of the ones he's most notoriously named for. And yeah, definitely earns that title.
Right.
He drifts in and out also of consciousness during this time while he's waiting to be free from the dragon's mouth. And Meryl, which is, Renfis's twin, and she's wearing a dress and she's reading a book. She remarks that he should have called her beautiful when she was alive because they could have been more, but that her friendship was enough. Meryl has important things to tell him about the God Sword. So the God Sword will eventually start to fail because all God Swords will lie dormant except for his. There's a small kernel of her magic that's tied to this sword, and she did this to protect her brother, to protect Fisher, to protect like the whole group, the whole Lope Proelia. Yeah. His mother wants him to know how much she loves you, meaning we know Kingfisher didn't know his mother. She passed away. He knew her for a period of time, but she's been gone for a really, really long time. We know Kingfisher's mother passed in childbirth to his sister. He did know her for several hundred years before Everlane was born, but there's a message from Mirelle to Kingfisher saying his mother wants you to know how much she loves you and guard your true name. His life depends on it. So that's a very interesting tidbit right there that we end with. And that starts us off at chapter 1.
Chapter 1, we now are in the perspective of Saeris Fane. We will stay in her perspective basically the rest of the book. We were in Avelia, now we're in Zilveran. It starts off really fast, too.
Yes.
Just like the POV chapters, you're like thrown into the action. That's what I loved about this book. There's a lot of world building, but it's like intertwined with action, so you don't feel like it's too heavy. She's captured, being choked by a royal guard. He's handsome, clad in golden armor. She has a flashback of her last experience with the Queen's Guard, where she stood silently in the street while her mom's throat was sliced open. You already know that she's had a rough life. Like, page 1, Saeris has not had an easy life. The guard asks for her name, age, and what ward she is from. And this is where you get the concept of different areas in the Silver City, and they're called wards. And she is from the 3rd ward, which is essentially where all the diseased people live, which they're referenced as they're diseased, even though they're not actually diseased. We know that's a concept created by the Queen. Everyone thinks they have like this sort of plague, and the guard threatens to throw her in the palace cells with no water, clean air, and the reek of rotting corpse because she was stealing, which is how people in the 3rd get by because they don't have jobs. They're basically left with like no water, no food. They get the scraps of the entire city. They're just struggling. And the fact that the jail time is like 8 minutes, like that's the last time she was in jail. And she said that was horrific just because it's hot. There are 2 suns. So it is hot, and we live in Florida, so we know hot, but this is like dry, disgusting, like heat that boils your skin. And the fact that there are just rotting corpses underground,
The other thing is the suns don't set. They're always up. There is no night in Zilveran. That would be insane.
What type of sleep are they getting? Their REM cycles might be so messed up.
Yeah. So not only do they have 2 suns, but it also is never nighttime.
There are a lot of concepts when she gets to Avelia that's like, okay, chill out. It's just water. But then you understand where she comes from and that she really just had a really shitty life for all 24 years because she's young. She actually, so she's dark-haired and blue-eyed, which is very uncommon traits. She gives this guard a fake name, which is Issa Fossick. And then we also see like her sassy banter like from the beginning too, because you know she also says like I'm single, and you know, and the guard's like, okay, like where are you from? And when she says the 3rd ward, he like starts flipping out because he touched her,
recoils
and says they're right because they're supposed to be under quarantine. He like takes off his gauntlet, which we described what a gauntlet was in the overview episode, but it's an armor that is for your hand. It covers your hand and your forearm, but it's this big piece of gold, which because their armors are pure gold, and if it's hot, like those guards must be so sweaty and gross. They have full gold armor, and it's like disgustingly, like I'm assuming it's like probably in the hundreds degrees Fahrenheit or plus. Saeris notices that he's just like disgusted, and she sees an opening and takes it, and basically takes the gauntlet and then tries to haul ass and get the fuck out of there as quickly as she can.
This guard has all this metal weighing him down. She's far quicker than him.
I figured he was like waddling.
Yeah, I know. That was like the image I had too. I was like, damn. And so she's just like, bye, deuces, I'm out. And just is like, I'm just going to freaking gun it the best that I can. And she basically has to go up this massive wall and
50 feet.
Yeah.
50 feet. Like climbing a 6-foot fence is like, and I'm 5'10". So that's like, you know, there's like not much of a difference from the top of my head. I'm like, that's kind of tough. 50 feet. Wild. And she's human. She's not Fae. So she's just human. And, you know, I don't want to say like just human, but she doesn't have like any magical powers that we know of yet up until this point. But, you know, our girl's just human.
The wall, she has to drop the gauntlet to free her hand, but the gauntlet literally would pay for her brother's education. On top of that, would also give them 3 years of food. They would get to leave Zilveran and likely be able to like weatherproof and have their own home, because at this point too, they live on the streets. They live above a business and they don't have a home.
It's a bar or market because they sleep between like rotted barrels and like using burlap sacks as like blankets and pillows.
Bathing.
That's just for this week.
Right.
She's never had a bath before because water's so precious. They only get 6 ounces a day of filtered city runoff.
So bad. She can't not take this gauntlet. What's wild is at the very beginning, she ascends the top of it and she slams the gauntlet on top to get herself over. And particles of quartz in the sand begin to vibrate and jitter in the air a millimeter above the sandstone. Quartz being a type of mineral above this, and the gold begins to come like alive. So she's like, tells the metal to not wake up. And the gauntlet whispers, she sees us, she feels us. This is a nod, obviously foreshadowing what we know her to be going forward. It isn't what we can figure out at the time. We're just like, what the hell is going on? We know that this is definitely something that she's going to be asked about directly by Kingfisher later on. The Guardian yells for her to drop the gauntlet, and she's like, no fucking way. Because she knows that no matter what he says, none of that's going to be true. She has to figure out what she's going to do next. The next thing that happens is she makes it out of there, and chapter 2 begins. Elroy, who is her
mentor,
pseudo
like
kind of like
mom's friend.
Yeah, I kind of viewed him as like a uncle, you know?
Right.
He has his own forge, and he is a metal worker, and also with glass. He makes all kinds of stuff. Yeah, mostly glass, but he can also do metalworking as well. But primarily works with glass because it's not going to get him killed. Elroy is like, why the fuck did you bring this here? What are you doing?
Yeah, he's pissed.
Yes. And she even points out like he's the most mad she's ever seen him, and she's done a lot of shit. And she's like, this is the worst I've ever seen.
Because she stole from the queen, so Madra's guards, which is Madra, the Undying queen, and they're going to come snooping around here because they know that she came from the Third Ward. They don't know who she is, but she came from the Third Ward, and he's like, I don't want to die. I don't want you to die. I don't want Hayden to die, which Hayden is her brother, younger brother, or like anyone. He knows that shit's about to go down.
Madra, the queen, already hates basically the Third Ward. All you're doing is, if you won't out yourself, like, she doesn't care. She'll just kill everyone. It was very Hunger Games-esque of like President Snow, of like District 12. Those were the vibes I was getting of where she's
I definitely thought Saeris was Katniss. Like, I pictured a Katniss with Saeris. And just like her actions. So if, Katniss is 16 in the first Hunger Games. So give her 8 more years. And yeah, that's Saeris.
Saeris thinks that Elroy was going to be on her side because she knows that he's helped smaller rebel factions and things like this in the past. She thinks like, oh, he's going to understand that this is a new ticket, like a new lease on life. He had fallen in love with Saeris' mother and believed in and had hope at one time. But then once Saeris' mother is basically killed in the streets, her throat is slit by the Guardians, he's adamant for it. She was surprised by this. And he's also like, what are they going to do when they find out what you can do with metal? You want to talk about that? And she's like, it's nothing. What are you talking about? Like, I don't have magic. Like, I don't have anything. And magic isn't even the word that's used. He alludes to the thing we had just seen with the Gauntlet in chapter 1. So there's even more of a reference to what we know is going to happen with her later on. And there will be more that comes of this, of her being able to move objects made out of iron, tin, or gold. So Elroy is saying that Hayden doesn't need to be involved in this. He's only 20 years old. And she's just like, he needs to start growing up at some point, but she's trying to take care of everybody.
Right.
It's a difficult thing for Saeris. She's not in a good place all around. It fucking sucks.
The way that she takes care of Hayden is, you would think he's like 12 or 13.
Honestly.
The way she talks to him, but he's 20 years old. So he's only 4 years younger than Saeris. And they're similar because, in some ways they're tall and lanky and they have the same sense of humor and they hold grudges. But Hayden has light hair. It's curly, golden brown eyes. Saeris has dark, straight hair and blue eyes. Hayden is a troublemaker. He's a gambler as well, and he drinks, and he's not good at gambling either. He gets into a lot of trouble. Saeris, ultimately finds him sprawled out and bleeding in front of the House of Kala, which is one of the taverns in the third. Kala's is unique because it's the only place that accepts like bartering and trade for food and drink. So other places accept money, but since money's hard to come by in the third, like she gets business that way. You can also gamble for goods, which Hayden and Saeris were exceptionally good at. I thought that was interesting. And then, so Carrion, this is where we're introduced to Carrion. He had beaten him again at whatever gambling game that they were doing. Saeris had given Hayden money for water, and he was like, well, I could have like doubled that money. You know, you give me this much, I could get more money, which he lost it all, plus a scarf. Scarves are used as protective wear, and often they use those like in desert areas, if you're picturing, because it's all sand. It's scorching hot, and it covers their face to protect them, one from sun and one from like sandstorms, any sort of wind damage that might happen, basically from the elements. And now that's gone. She's like, well, fuck, I have to get all this shit back because you just screwed all that up. Saeris marches into the tavern searching for Carrion Swift. And as soon as she marches in, everyone
and she leaves her bag.
They're like, oh shit. She has the bag with the gauntlet, and she leaves it with Hayden, like, hold on to this, because she couldn't go into the tavern with Carrion with the bag. Hayden, her untrustworthy brother who gambles, is clearly the next best choice to have the bag. Yeah. Carrion, so he's described, he has auburn hair, he's a notorious gambler, cheat, smuggler in the city. He is significantly taller than everyone else, and he's just all around charming. And the way I was like, clearly there's something different about him, like not just charming. In the later chapters, there's a big reveal about like his bloodline. And when I found that and I was doing my reread, because I listened the first time to the audiobook, and the audiobook's phenomenal, definitely give it a listen. And then going through this reread, I'm like, shit, I should have known.
Right. It's like really obvious that he's Fae.
Yeah.
You just like don't.
Right.
Because they're in that world, it's like you as the reader put rules in place when there aren't really rules. You make assumptions that he's human without having enough context to think otherwise, because you're just like, oh, it's a human bar. They're in Zilveran. There aren't any other types of creatures here. But that can't be true because they set you up at the very beginning that Saeris can manipulate metal. Clearly, that's not 100% true anyways. But for whatever reason, it flew right over my head when I read it the first time too, so don't feel bad.
Right, well, because it establishes that there's no magic, and Madra, the Undying Queen, also no magic, no Fae bloodline, but she's been ruling for centuries, thousands of years. That's, let's not question that at all, right? But there's no magic. She just doesn't die. There's something else there. Clearly. So that leads Carrion in this whole conversation with Saeris and Carrion, and you find out that they were lovers-ish. They like hooked up in the past.
I think they hooked up one time, and it was like this big ordeal.
And Saeris said never again. She like ran out of his apartment, and he just pokes and prods at her and basically tries to get her all riled up and has a drink with her, which is where Drink of the Night comes from. Is here where he pulls like a whole glass of whiskey, and when she's like, he says, have a drink with me, and he pours whiskey. A whole glass. The whole cup. And she's dehydrated. And super. she just ran like climbed 50 feet in the up and down.
Your girl
like, let's have a whole glass.
Also, again, human. Feel like you'd be dead for sure by now. But anyways.
Your liver would be angry at you.
For sure. So Carrion has blue eyes, and he's the tallest in the room, also has the most confidence. Carrion taunts her. Saeris emphasizes that they have a deal. So there's obviously lots of past dealings with him to leave Hayden alone, and she's not going to interfere with his supply lines. He's like, fine, but I broke my rule because he tried to stab me. Even your brother. Yeah, exactly. Even your brother isn't going to get away with stabbing. And she's like, what? Like, it's that bad? So he says, come get a drink. I'll give you Hayden's scarf. She counters, all right, well, she wants the chits, which is a type of money, and 5 extra ones on top of the scarf to have a drink. She goes and sits, 3 tables away, and this is where he gives her that big glass of whiskey. Because she trusts her brother, she's like not in this huge rush to leave there to like go get this gauntlet.
He just like gambled away the money that you trusted him to buy water, which you need to survive. You're gonna trust him with literally the thing that you just stole, which will get you killed.
And then not only that, but we're
whole
just
time I
going
was
to take our time and have a drink with Carrion too while we're at it. Because why not? We trust our brother. It'll be fine.
life's
Not a
too
problem.
short in the third.
Very true. And you have to think, she doesn't have food and water. She may not be fully cognitively functioning on all the right decision-making things that she should be doing. We're going to give her a little bit of grace here. Carrion offers to hide the gauntlet. He knows about it. He says like, hey, if there's a problem in the ward, I'm going to know about it. And it's now become my problem. So if somebody might have this gauntlet, they need to get rid of it. She ends up outing herself and she's like, I'm going to take care of it. Because he essentially says, you are putting the entire third at risk, basically District 12. This is how I equated this. It was a Hunger Games reference to me. I'm like, yeah, hello. You just put the whole district at risk here. Because they already have no reason to like them, and now you've just made it like exponentially worse. The third is basically this wheel. You have the hub in the middle, and then you have all these different spokes, is how I imagined it. I want to emphasize one other thing before we move on. Like in the map, you don't see Zilveran like within or near the map because technically they're in a different realm. Like they're not in the same, because she looks at the stars when she's in Yvelia, and there's a mention of her, I'm looking out at Zilveran somewhere in these stars. So that's what the Quicksilver will do as a portal. It literally moves you to different worlds. It's not what Kingfisher can open as like the Shadow Gate. That only moves between places that you're already in. The Quicksilver, no. You're dropping through to somewhere else entirely. I wanted to just identify that before we kept going. Saeris leaves the tavern, of course, and Hayden and the Gauntlet are gone.
Chapter 3, Saeris walks towards the Mirage, which is the other tavern across town or across the ward. And she's like having a panic attack because she's like, okay, if he looked inside the bag, he is likely going to try to sell it. I need to intercept him some way, in some place, before he like fucks all this up and he dies. Since magic has been gone for hundreds of years, even though the queen has been alive for thousands, she was human. She gets pissed when someone takes one of her possessions, which is what she ultimately did. And there is a reference to this like dealer called Varath Shah. And he deals in snake oils and like basically like, I'll give you a fragment of metal that was claimed to be magic, even though magic supposedly doesn't exist, and he like buys random shit and sells it. Like he's like just really sketchy. I pictured very much like the Shadow Man and Princess and the Frog. Like that's who I picture this guy to be. Okay. Yeah. And Saeris hears a cry as she's like making her way.
Do you remember Miss Cleo way back in the day? You'd like call the 18 number and she'd like supposedly read your fortune. You don't?
No.
Okay. This was in like millennials. Help me out here. This was like in the 90s. She was known. There was a Miss Cleo like hotline. And of course, she was like a total fraud, but it didn't come out for a really long time that she was like a complete and utter fraud. The whole thing, you need to go down the Miss Cleo rabbit hole after this.
The trustworthiness people would have to like
call, they totally would. And you would listen like because like you didn't have like there was like no internet then. So these people would call
before Google.
They would call her 1-800 number and she would like do this live. She would do these like live readings and like, yeah. It's all a scam.
Saeris, as she's like making her way to the Mirage, she hears a cry. She just knows it's Hayden and he's in trouble, and she starts running, and no one in the third runs. She points this out because they don't have a lot of energy. They don't have food and water, so there's no need to run unless you're running from something. Everyone's like, on high alert because she starts running, and guardians start chasing after her, and then 30 guards meet her at the Mirage, and Hayden is holding the gauntlet, like just like I have this, dumbass. And he's obviously terrified. He's like, holy shit, like what is this? Realizing like, oh my god, I fucked up. And
what did he have it for all of 20 minutes, 30 minutes maybe, before he's already caught?
And he knows he's probably not gonna make it. He's not gonna make it out of this alive. If he tries to run, he's going to die. If he stays, he's going to die. Like there's no way out of this. And Saeris is like barking at him essentially, like, stop. That is mine. He's telling the guards that's hers. It's not his. And so there's this back and forth where they're like trying to lie and cover up for each other. And the head guard's just like, shut up. Like, I'm tired of hearing all of this. And then the guard commands 3 other guardians to retain Saeris. And this is where she pulls a blade out and starts fighting them. And your girl is good with a blade.
Yes, she is.
Very quick. Like, this is like a very quick scene. She stabs the shortest of the three in the neck. Just really quickly, she knows where the chink in the armor is, that she can get to the weak spots. Then she cuts off the next guard's hand, just like clean slice. And she's just rage. Like, because it's not just with Hayden. Her mother's death. Her mother was killed by guardians. So we're her friends, and now we're his family. So she's just like raging here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she also thinks to herself,
challenge her.
I think she also thinks to herself, well, if they're going to take me and him, like, I'm going to take some of these assholes out on my way down.
Yeah.
Because basically you're just going to kill off my whole family. The last guard, she matches him blow for blow, and then she finally gets him in his thigh, and his femoral artery just like, he just collapses and he bleeds out everywhere. They don't say femoral artery, but that's essentially what she hits. And he just bleeds out all over the ground and kaput. He's dead. Captain is like,
and
the fuck?
Because, like, why would she know how to take down these guards that are trained? There are rebels in the third, which is why we, in the next couple of chapters, will understand, like, that's why the queen hates the third. It's because there are rebels in there, and so she was trained by rebels, so she understands how to fight. And queen, doesn't want to be dethroned. If you've been on the throne for thousands of years, you don't like rebellion in any sort of way. He's definitely like, what? How? Why?
Hayden is screaming that he's not going to leave her, and fucking idiot. She's like, yes, you will, and you're going to go to the old man, and you're going to tell him what to do. And do not come looking for me. I do not need you to come looking for me. Hayden's saying he's going to stay. This is like, the fuck you are. Hello, I just saved your life. Go tell the old man. And she keeps repeating the old man, because she's obviously not going to out Elroy. So she's not going to say his name. She keeps saying, go tell the old man. She says some really harsh words to him on purpose to drive him to go do this. We see this moment where Saeris tells her brother that he is a burden to her. Of course, she doesn't mean this, but she says this to him in this moment because he is not listening. He won't listen. And I want to say, like, the kid won't listen because truly, like, he still acts
He is
very
mentally
juvenile.
a child.
Like, come on.
She's like, I just damned myself. Please do something that's useful. Yeah. Like, I literally just saved your ass. Can you take it and go do something and be something,
Right. Chapter 4.
Frustrating.
Happens where Saeris, of course, is imprisoned. She's in this tiny windowless box, and Captain Heron, who is the guy who tossed her into the cell, tells her she's going to await the queen. So she's just hanging out for hours and hours and hours.
The way I thought with Captain Heron, this was going to be Throne of Glass. I was like, oh, yay, we're introduced to the love interest, and they're going to be enemies to lovers. And, like, I literally thought this was setting this up for Throne of Glass. I'm like, okay, great, got it. Because it's, like, almost the same exact scene. Like, the first few chapters of Throne of Glass, she's walking in, being carried by the guard. I was like, all right, but it didn't go that way. It didn't.
No, and then Captain Heron, I saw him as like a much older man in my mind. Maybe that's just later. Like, I didn't see them as the same age. Maybe they were.
Okay.
But I didn't read them as the same age. But it might have just been the way that he fawns over Madra, and like that he's been a captain for a while. I thought of him as older, but maybe he's not. Maybe he's the same age. We'll have to see how they do the casting. I'd be curious to see who they pick for him.
Maybe he's eternal.
I don't know, but he's afraid of Quicksilver. He knows what it is, that's for sure. So he takes her finally to meet Madra after there's some banter of sarcasm back and forth where Sarah's just like, fuck off, I'm not going to tell you anything. Or he gives her water. And at first I'm like, is he poisoning her? Because that'd be a dick thing to do at this point. Sarah drains the entire canteen, asks if he knows how much water that they're given in the third. And this is where we first kind of understand that they're only given 6 ounces and that it comes from a standing reservoir that comes from sewage runoff and that the grate itself only catches the solids.
He was like, well, you seem healthy. It's fine. And she's like, because I've been stealing I've been stealing the hub's water. That's clean, right?
What your guardians drink.
That's the only reason why I'm healthy. Exactly. But she doesn't tell him that.
No, she thinks it.
Obviously, that would out that, and like someone, there would be more guards, and she would damn more people in the third. So, but she thinks that. But the fact that he's like, well, if the queen says that's enough, it's like, oh my god, okay,
you're an idiot.
Where's your humanity, man?
Well, not even that. It's not even about humanity. He's just such a blind follower of Madra, and like so are so many others, which is kind of what got her into this mess in the first place with the Guardian. Is like he had this sack on his person that's like supposed to shield him from the disease. They believe that the people of the third truly are ill and that they can catch it. And so there's comments back and forth that the third does not actually have any sickness and that she believes that they're being killed off because there's people in the third that have historically asked questions, but her people are not going to die off. And there's this quote that's been highlighted by thousands of people on Kindle, and it's, "Do you know much about metalwork, Captain? I do. It's under the most unbearable conditions that the sharpest, most dangerous weapons are forged, and we are dangerous, Captain. She's turned us all into weapons. That is why she won't suffer my people to live." Meaning that she knows what she's done and she's just going to try to get rid of them, but her people are still going to basically continue to forge on and not allow that to deter the fact that they know things are fucked up and they'll fight back. So they continue walking. This is all taking place in the walk through the palace. She's going through all these halls. They're finally in this hall and she sees this platform with what she thinks is a lever, is what it looks like. And they'd been walking for a long time. So they're like way deep into this palace, or if you want to call it that, this castle type deal. They're way deep in there. And they get to where she's going to be, Madra, and she sees this platform with a lever and she can't stop looking at it. She just like keeps looking and feeling drawn to it. And this place used to be a hall of mirrors, or what it was called. So Captain Heron lights the torches in the room. There's torches all over. And along the walls, you start to see the first acknowledgement to the gods. Balea and Min are the twin sisters who embody the Zilveran suns, which we talked about before, because there is no nighttime in Zilveran. It's only sunshine all the time. And there's 2 suns at that. Queen Madra appears, fair skin, golden hair, blue eyes, dainty, graceful, strange. And if you listen to the audiobook for Madra's voice, it is freaky. She has this like high-pitched, girly, whispery voice, but she is super malicious psycho. It's a very Umbridge vibe.
Yeah, I was picturing a lot of, so in Serpents and the Wings of Night, do you remember the cousin from, it was in the Star-Cursed King. It was the second book. We go to the cousin.
Yes.
And she's like young, but not. And
psychotic.
Really, like, yeah.
And dainty,
so that's what I was picturing.
And that does work.
Yep.
That totally works.
Yeah. It's not, she doesn't look like.
No, she's not Umbridge
queen,
looking.
which clearly she's not.
Yeah.
No, not at all. Right. And so Madra, she speaks to Saeris. She refers to those of the third as rats, but like she's speaking and she's not listening when Saeris responds. She's not looking for answers. She's just kind of talking. She likes to hear the sound of her own weird voice. So she calls her a low-born rat, asks her how she murdered 2 of her guards because, you know, those guards, they're her guardians. Saeris says she taught herself, but Madra knows that she's lying. She has like it in her head that it's the Fae. You're clearly the Fae have taught you and they've come here and they're going to finally take what is theirs. She like goes on this whole rant about the Fae and how they're warmongers, they're cannibals, and they're beasts. She's determined the Fae sent Saeris, and Saeris is like, what the fuck are you talking about? She's like so confused by this because they don't talk about the Fae anymore. They don't talk about magic. There hasn't been magic.
Okay, this queen is completely batshit fucking crazy. Like, what is she even talking about?
The reason why they're in this Hall of Mirrors is because that lever is the god sword shoved into a pool of Quicksilver. That's essentially why it's there. And Madra knows it's there. She put the sword in there and she wanted to check to see if this room is the same. Because she's like, the Fae can't be here if this room is the same, meaning the Quicksilver hasn't opened yet. And then she like comments on Heron how he's like quiet. The strong captain she saw is now like diminished to like a shell of himself. Ultimately, he's afraid of the queen, and she's like trying to figure out why. Like, why is he afraid? And Madra declares when Heron is done killing Saeris and making sure, since Saeris lies, that the hall like rings with the cries of her pain. So fucked
she
up.
wants to hear her
sing. And Heron is to go to the third and slaughter the rest of her people. The only way to deal with a rat is to smoke out the nest. And since someone trained Saeris, she must kill any signs of rebellion. And Saeris is going to just be an example, and 100,000 people will pay the price for what Saeris has done.
Exactly what Elroy and also what Carrion predicted is exactly what Madra said she would do, which is, we can't allow this type of behavior to go unpunished, and we can't allow this to not be set an example of, because you cannot take a Guardian's Gauntlet and go free. This can't happen. And not only that, but it doesn't just speak to the third, it speaks to my power as a whole and all of Zilveran, because I can't have that. Very President Snow will just take out everybody, been wanting to anyway. Now I get to. Now I can justify my insane. Chapter 5. So now Queen Madra is strolling her little self down the hall. Everything's right in the world. I get to go kill tons more people, and with my little dainty self, be all happy about it. All is right. I am still in power. This is what I imagine. Psychotic. Psycho bitch. Okay. The little feet are silent, and it's all this twistedness masked by this beauty and her sweet voice. Then Heron draws his sword, because go kill an innocent girl after this, which I guess she's not innocent because she's a thief, but go kill a girl who is not able to defend herself, not just kill her, but torture her. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Great.
Right. This is very graphic because it's very well described. It's not like torture and then off page. It's very much on page.
Yep.
Heron, and he
this chapter's
apologizes.
Intense. Yeah, it's bizarre.
Right. And yeah, it's weird. He's like, I'm sorry, I'm going to make it quick. I don't want to do this, but I have to do my part, or she's going to kill me because I'm afraid of her as well. It was really weird because he has this persona of like, my hands are tied here, so I'm going to,
like, I know what I'm going to do is wrong.
Out, but not too much. Yeah. He stabs her. He pushes her to the ground and buries the sword in her stomach. And then he's like whispering to her, like, this is about to hurt, but if you make it loud, I'm going to end this really quickly. When he like twists the blade, which makes the wound bigger and blood's gushing horrible. Everywhere. And she comments that she's literally pinned to the stone. She cannot escape because she's like literally skewered. Then he stabs her shoulders, and then he moves to stab the other shoulder, but the metal tip froze an inch away from her body. And he's like, what are you doing? Stop this.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's like, what the fuck? Stop this. And she's wanting this to happen, but not really having full control over her being able to command the dagger, which ultimately is Quicksilver, right? The stillness wanted the blade, and so it took it. As if I had a third invisible hand, I reached out toward the dagger and I wrapped my will around it. The weapon trembled, its tip quivering. This is the description of what she was doing. And he tells her to stop the heresy. The dagger started flowing white hot and screeched in her ears, and essentially it becomes this liquid that she commands, and it crawls up his body. And I can't wait to see this. Graphic. Mm-hmm.
Something's wrong, probably wrong.
It is so
that, but
graphic, but it's such a it's a fucked up scene because she's stabbed, and he has the Quicksilver inching toward him like a demon ghost thing.
Suspenseful as fuck.
Which is not a demon ghost, but yeah. This scene's gonna be wild. This entire book's gonna be wild, but these first chapters are gonna be wild from the very beginning. I'm so excited. And he's begging her, stop, please, he cries, that out, Madra, he can't die. Madra won't let him die.
So bad.
Please don't.
No. Yeah.
Which the fact that I missed this at first is that he says Madra won't let him die. And at first I'm okay, that's weird. But now I'm thinking knowing the ending, how old could Heron be? Because Madra won't let him die. Meaning he is likely probably died, gotten injured to the point where he is near death, and she revives him. So it seems like he wants death to happen, but he's this is torture. As the Quicksilver is making its way up his body, she notices the sword on the platform, and she drags herself. Now that the pressure of the sword through her stomach is off, she can drag herself across the floor, up the platform, and grab the sword.
She's I don't know how I'm going to wield this because I'm literally bleeding out everywhere, but also I'm going to kill this motherfucker.
Yeah, she can't pull it out.
No.
Right, because she can't pull it out or she will actually die. She's let me at least have some time to do some damage. She draws out the sword, and then she swings the sword at Heron. He's please put the sword back. As she's swings her sword at Heron, she does ultimately land a blow in his shoulder, which, good for her. And then she realizes that she is sinking into this pool of Quicksilver, and it's consuming both her and Heron. And then she has this reference to our shadow daddy, Kingfisher. Since she doesn't know his name, she calls him Death. References that Death himself has consumed her. He had come to claim her in person. So she's like thinking, okay, the Grim Reaper has come ultimately. And from the silver, which this is going to look so good in the
Oh my
film.
God, the way I'm going to fangirl.
Scene.
I'm just going to be like, you and I are going to be over it. And I'm going to be like, there he is.
He's clad in black armor, broad shoulders, dark hair, iridescent green eyes, and the right eye is rimmed in silver. He's like this big hulking figure. He like towers over her. And then Death descends on Heron and asks where Madra is. Clearly, he like knows of this realm, but she has like just this personification of death is essentially who Kingfisher is up until this point. And then Heron starts going nuts because the Quicksilver has overcome him. And that's what the Quicksilver does. It completely makes you insane because those voices are talking in your head. And he starts mumbling about the ground, the passages, and the obsidian. And the way that I'm like, he was fucking foreshadowing.
Yep.
This is where the ending is going to be. And, you know, you think he's like mumbling on, but in the final chapters, this is where they are in the underground, in these passages that are ever shifting to trap them in there forever. And then his cries fall silent. We assume that he's dead. Your boy's not.
No.
Because when an author doesn't say they died, then they're not dead. They're not dead
Right.
at all.
No. But you want him to be so bad that you're just like, he's dead. That's what you think.
Fine. I'll write that off.
Well, she makes a point to say that when the knife goes through, that it's like buttery feeling, and that the power of the sword was just like, it just like sliced through him. So you're kind of also thinking he got cut so severely by Saeris, and now this metal is like going into his body. Like he's definitely dead now. That's like kind of, at least that's what I thought on the first read.
Right.
Death grabs her, picks her up, places a pendant on her. And if she dies before he can give it back, he's going to be unhappy. So Death carries her into the pool and takes her into the silver. And that's where we end chapter 5. And I am just so excited about this book, Michelle. I'm so excited about this book. I am so excited.
It's so good.
I feel like it's something different that we've not done before, even though it's in the same genre. It's still a totally different type of story. And I can't wait to like fully take more time to go through these chapters in depth and really like get into them because it's fun. It's such a fun story. And
absolutely.
dark and twisted and
it's gonna
all the things.
It's now in the next chapters, we're going to get into Avelia, and this is where we get more fun things and we see all the monsters of the night. And I'm very excited for our next episodes. Now it's time for our mystery Q&A. These questions have not been shared with either of us prior to asking.
What was your first like played on repeat album or mixtape that you were like obsessed with that you can remember?
Holy shit. Backstreet Boys. I was a Backstreet Boys girly. So it was definitely
Millennium.
It had to be. Yes. The one where they're all in white. Yeah. Millennium.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
That was
a banger.
I remember I was so obsessed with the Backstreet Boys. You know, like those 1-800 numbers on the back of CDs. I literally had my mom call them, be like, I want to talk to Brian. I love him. And she did it. And and then someone on the phone on the other was like, oh, well, he's busy right now. You know, clearly, like, you know, when that CD came out, I think I was 7. You know, I was a little kid.
I was also a Backstreet Boys girly. I was more than NSYNC. And I also, my favorite was Brian. And I don't meet many other people who share that.
I love Brian.
It's just like a kindred spirit thing that we have going on.
Yeah, most people like a Nick.
Yeah, I wasn't. I loved Brian. I don't know why. I loved Kevin too, though.
Yes.
I did. I love you. For some reason, the album or song that I was like obsessed with, which makes no sense. Do you remember back in the day, you used to order albums from like a magazine, or you could like order them like over the phone and they would ship them to your house? And you could also like go to the store and they would have them, right? Like Barnes and Noble like had they still have a whole music bin, but like you would buy the CDs, or you like way back when Disney used to have a Virgin store.
And buy the CDs.
Yeah, or like that big giant Virgin store that used to be a thing. Anyway, I wanted the Paula Cole album. I don't know why I wanted that album so bad. Do you remember Paula Cole, her song? She had like had like 2 songs. And her one song that I really, really loved is I Don't Want to Wait. So remember that song?
I don't want to wait for my To be over.
Thank you.
I didn't even know who she was, but when you said that, I'm like, oh, okay, I know that song.
Yes. I loved the song and I needed to have her album. And I got it in the mail. And I remember waiting for like ever for this to come. And I was little. God, I was in elementary school or something.
It wasn't
no,
like
I was
2
like
days
very young.
shipping.
This was like one of my no. You had to like wait. And I think my dad got it with some kind of points he had from some music rewards thing. And he's like, yeah, whatever. You can use my points to get this. I was like, okay, great. And I got it and I like coveted this album. And I think I only listened to like the 1 or 2 songs on it that I liked. And like that was it. But that was not the point. I had gotten my own album and it was like a big deal.
Yeah.
So that's the one I most remember.
Millennial like TV ads, like advertisements, those were real. Like I had all those ads for like those like drawing kits. I would tell my mom like, buy me that, please. And,
I had the original Now That's What I Call Music, the first one.
Yes,
I had that.
Yes.
Janet Jackson was on that one. Oh yeah, I had it. I loved it. I love that. Now what's like what I called me. Oh, here we go. Our millennial listeners tuning into our Q&A questions here. But
there wasn't Spotify, so we couldn't like make a playlist of all our favorite songs. We had to go, like wait for like the new Now CD to come out so we can have all the bangers on one CD.
Yes.
And instead of like listening to the radio, and it was never the song that you wanted because when you're driving, it was always the ads and
and then the Now That's What I Called Music. I want to say it had Smash Mouth on there. Definitely had Janet Jackson. I'm sure it had several of the boy bands at some point or another. The original. Now That's What I'm gonna go down the rabbit hole after this and go see what the original playlist of Now That's What I Call Music was. But I had it. And it was coveted. Everybody wanted them. They made fun of it later, and now they have like Kids Pop or whatever.
Thing. Yeah, they have Kids Pop. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, but it was a thing. It was before we were burning CDs and all that. Because once that kind of happened way later, burning CDs, it kind of went away. But yeah, the Now CDs were a big deal. Yeah.
That was it.
All right. What's your question?
All right. So if you could plan a girls' trip, what would be like your ideal place or your ideal adventure?
Is this like a book girlies?
It's like a book girlies.
Okay. I think for us, because of where we live in Orlando, the resorts, opportunity to do staycation and still like not be far from my family in case I'm needed is a good draw for me. And I like the idea of being semi close by while also still feeling like I'm really far away. And the Orlando resorts are just really, really good at that. So maybe this is foreshadowing. I don't know. What's Book Club After Dark gonna do? Would you go on a girls trip, book club trip with us? Maybe, maybe not. But a goal of mine for what we could do in the future, I think it'd be really awesome. Even just you and I, if we went to go do a girls weekend, just us, like a mini Book Club After Dark trip, a staycation for me, I think would be great to just be able to read and chat and do a spa day as part of it and go to the pool and just kind of chill. Doesn't have to be super crazy or anything. What would you do?
Okay. I'm very much like when I go places, I like feeling far away. I love cabins, like the whole cabin, hot tub, snow vibe. I would love that. And then, snowed in with hot tub, you got your book and the fireplace and it's all nice and cozy. Like I would love that. Obviously, we're on the same wavelength when it comes to our families and we don't like, I would like to go to a place like what a cabin resort type area that have like cabins. There's things for the family and whatnot. I wouldn't mind a beach trip, like a beach cabana or like a beach house type trip, but not like a Florida beach house. We live so close to the beach that I wouldn't feel like that's like a getaway. Like definitely the Keys are like, I'm very much like, I don't like Key West. It's too touristy.
Okay. It's fair.
Very touristy. Like Marathon is like a good area because you can go do the touristy things, but you're in like you're like in a not crowded area and the beaches are really nice. Have you been to the beach on the Keys? It's like very rocky.
Yep.
The water is very choppy. But if you go to one of the Keys, the water is a lot more calm. And I like being able to see if there are things swimming underneath me. So that is one thing. I don't like murky water. And that's also living in Florida. Yeah. We don't deal with murky water. There are creatures under there that will likely eat you. So
for sure.
Yeah.
That's fair.
All right. So before we wrap up, let's talk about what's coming up next in Book Club After Dark.
Next week, we're going to dive into chapters 6 through 10 of Quicksilver by Callie Hart. So hit that subscribe button to hear more of our exciting book talk. We are looking forward to continuing to dissect this novel with you.
And don't forget, we want to hear from you. If you have thoughts on Quicksilver or suggestions for future reads, drop a comment below or message us on one of our social media platforms at Book Club After Dark Pod. Show us your fan art, theories, or anything bookish you'd like to share.
You can also visit our website, bookclubafterdark.co, to stay up to date on our cozy content and check out our merch.
And that's all for tonight. Sleep tight, night owls. Until next time, happy reading.